As the name implies, the linear pattern tool allows you to replicate geometry in a linear fashion. It allows you to pattern geometry in a single direction or in two different directions within a single step. These copies referred to as instances are all based in the original geometry. Referred as to seed, which means that if changes are made to the seed, the pattern instance will change to reflect changes as well. In this tutorial, I'll use a few examples to demonstrate how to linear pattern works and show you how to the options such as skipping instances to pattern the seed only when a two-direction linear pattern is used. Finally, I'll go over the instance to verify to option which provides quite a bit flexibility when using linear patterns. The linear pattern tool creates multiple instances of the geometry you select which can be spaced uniformly along one or two linear directions. Using this part, I'll show you how to create a linear pattern using this boss extrude on the upper left as the seed feature. But before I get started, I want to quickly point out that this boss extrude was actually created within two features, one boss extrude feature and one fillet feature. The launch the linear pattern tool, I can go to insert pattern mirror and click on the linear pattern. Or I can click on linear pattern from the feature toolbar. When I click on it, the property manager appears. In the direction 1 group box, I can specify a direction by selecting any entity that establishes a vector, such as line, axis, linear dimension, or model edge. I'll select this model edge to use as the pattern direction. Before I adjust these parameters that control the spacing and number of instances, I would actually like to skip down in the property manager. To select the geometry, by selecting the geometry first, it will be easier to adjust the parameters. Since I preview the will appear in the graphic area, here you can see that there are two options available for what you can select to pattern. You can pattern features and faces or bodies. You saw earlier this cutout, it made up to two features, so I'll click the feature and faces selection window. To select the feature, I can either select them in the graphics area, or I can expand the layout feature manager tree and the select feature from there. When I click on feature, you can see a preview of pattern pair right away. I'll be sure to select both features that make up the boss extrude. At this point, I'll scroll to the top property manager and adjust. I skipped over a moment ago. In case you ever decide to use a different direction for the pattern, you can always click the pattern direction box again, press the delete key on your keyboard, right click and press delete and select a new direction. In case the preview shows the instance is going in the wrong direction, notice the reverse direction icon. Or you click this arrow in the graphic area to flip it from a side to the other. The next parameter allows you to set the spacing between instances and the number of instances the pattern should include. These can be defined by the spacing and number of instances or by patterning up to the reference and spacing them evenly across that distance. I'll choose spacing and instances for now. I'll click the spacing cell and type 1.25 millimeters. For the number of pattern instances, I will type in 4. You probably already noticed that the preview only shows 4 copied instances. The number typed in the property manager represents the total number of instances, including the original seed geometry. To create a pattern in two direction, I will activate the pattern direction 2 field. I'll select the edge as the direction vector. You were probably expecting the preview to update, but if you look like the property manager, the number of instances for direction 2 I set to 1. I'll use the arrow to increase this to 5 and you can see the preview update right away as but the spacing obviously needs. I'll type in value to 1.25 millimeter to spacing window. You can see that the instances that were patterned in direction 1 were also patterned in this direction. Notice if I check the box to pattern seed only, direction 2 is only the patterning original seed geometry and does not include the other instances from the direction 1. I'll disable this option for now and show you another example of this in a moment. Another option that you should be aware of is this down here called instances to skip. I'll expand it and you can see that pink marker were added to the controid of each instance in the graphic area. To skip an instance, I'll click on any of the marker and they are removed. Preview right away. To restore a skipped instance, just click on a marker again. At this point, I'll click OK to finish the pattern. SolidWorks also offers a convenient display option to show the seed feature within the completed linear pattern. If I click on the linear pattern feature in the feature manager design tree, the pattern highlight in two different colors, one color for the seed and another color of the copied feature. This allows you to easily identify where the pattern originated and how the seed feature is driving the pattern. SolidWorks will also display a tooltip about a pattern. If I hover cursor over the linear pattern feature, information about the pattern appears in a flyout box. Some of this information includes the pattern name and the pattern type, any seeds used to create the pattern, the direction of the pattern, and a few other parameters of the feature. This tooltip can be turned on or off by going to options and under the system options tab, click display. A checkbox for display pattern information tooltips can be checked or clear here too. Enable or disable the tooltip feature. At this point, I will move to show you another example. A moment ago, you saw that the second direction defaults to patterning all geometry created by the first direction unless pattern seed only is used to pattern only the seed geometry. This option is commonly used to prevent overlapping results when the two directions use the same vector. I'll launch the linear pattern tool. First, I'll select the seed geometry in order to see a preview in the graphic area. I want to pattern the three hole feature, so I'll click the feature to pattern window. Expand the feature manager tree and click on the cut extrude feature that created the three holes. With the seed geometry selected, I'll set the parameter for direction 1. I'll select this edge of the pattern direction and make sure it's going towards the left. Using the callout, I will type a value of 38.5 in the spacing window and I will type a value of 2 in the instances window. For direction 2, I'll select the same edge and make sure it's going to the opposite direction. The better show you the effects of the pattern seed only options more clearly, I will type a value of 25 mm in the spacing window and value of 2 in the instances window. You can see that all of the geometry created by the first direction is patterned here in direction 2. These two pattern instances would overlap. To prevent this overlap, I'll select the pattern seed only checkbox. Right away, you can see the preview update to show only the seed geometry being patterned in direction 2. The linear pattern feature includes an option called instances to vary. When this option is enabled, it allows you to vary the spacing for each instance, as well as vary dimension of the pattern geometry itself. To demonstrate, I'll launch the linear pattern tool. I'll skip down and select the geometry to pattern. And edit the direction 1 parameters. I'll select this edge as the pattern direction. Type in spacing value of 40 mm and set the instances to 4. With the basic pattern creator, I'll scroll down to the bottom of the property manager and click the instances to vary checkbox. This field at the top allows you to vary the pattern spacing by typing in a value will increment for each instance. I'll enter a value of 10 mm, meaning that the spacing between instances will increase by 10 mm for each instance in the pattern. You can also choose feature dimensions to vary in direction 1. In the graphic area, you can see the dimension value that can vary based on the seed geometry that has been selected. To add feature dimensions to this window, I'll click the dimension in the graphic area. I'll click this radius dimension and you can see that it was added to the window. To edit the increment value, I'll double click the cell and type in a value of 2 mm. I'll add one more dimension. I'll select the width dimension. I'll type in a value of 5 mm, but this time I'll use the callout. Notice that the direction to vary instances option are disabled. If you have a pattern that goes in two directions, you would be able to edit these as well. To apply the changes I just made, I'll click OK. And you can see that the spacing between instances increasing along with the radius and width. If you want to modify a specific pattern instant to use a different value than what is being incremented, SolidWorks allows you to do this as well. I'll click on the pattern feature and select edit feature. Just as you saw in the earlier example where the markers were used to skip instances. Notice if I click on marker for one of the varying instances, there is an option to skip. as well to modify this instance. If I click modify instance, a callout appears that attached to the instance. I can edit the value of to override to current pattern settings. For this example, I will change the spacing to 100 millimeters, the width to 40 millimeters, and I will click OK.